But all of us also in Ukraine, had these family histories, and this is one of them. The book is based on the life of my grandmother, who was also called Deborah, like the character in the book, who's a Jewish Ukrainian woman who was born in the town of Uman, and then had to survive, like everyone else in Ukraine, had to survive this really dark period, because the period from 1930 to about 1953, the death of Stalin, at the time Ukraine was probably the deadliest place on earth. If you look at all the tragedies that happened there, there was the artificial famine, the Holodomor of 1932-1933, in which upwards of 4 million people died. It's classified as an act of genocide by the US Congress and the European Parliament, and the purpose of that famine was to eliminate any possibility of resistance in the Ukrainian countryside. Basically, Stalin's security forces would surround the village, confiscate all the grain, confiscate all the food, and then prevent villagers from leaving and going to where they could find more food. And then there was this executive renaissance, the wholesale elimination of the Ukrainian intellectual class, the German invasion, the Holocaust, in which my great-grandfather died, the destruction of Kiev by the Soviets in the first days of the war, because the Soviet military, as they retreated, booby-trapped the entire city center and then blew it up on the heads of the residents and some Germans. And then after the war, when the Soviets came back to Kiev, half its population had been killed by the Germans by then. And then after the war, there was an insurgency in Ukraine that lasted for another 10 years, while the rest of Europe was peacefully rebuilding. And all that complex history, was hidden. Even in the West, people didn't really know about the famine because of complicity. One of the characters the book is a work of fiction, but a lot of the side characters there are actual living persons who play a role in Ukrainian history. So one of them is Walter Duranty, who was the Moscow correspondent for the New York Times, who won the Pulitzer Prize for his illuminating reports into Soviet Russia, and who played a key role in actually debunking reports of famine in Ukraine. He asserted that the famine didn't exist. He discredited people who reported the truth. And at the end of the day, he was complicit in this mass slaughter of Ukrainians at the time. And so that history is the history that's told by every family in Ukraine. So everyone in Ukraine who's around today is a descendant of the survivors of this meat grinder of history.